About 10 years ago, I was employed as a corrections officer at my local sheriff's department, and I was assigned to our county jail as a corrections officer. Every day when I would walk in the staff entry door, there was a quote painted up on the wall, and it said, "Treat a person as they are, and they will stay that way. Treat them as they could be, and they will become that person." Well, after working in a jail for several years, that kind of sounded like an oxymoron to me because it didn't seem like a lot of rehabilitation was going on in our jail. There were times where I wanted to paint over that quote and repaint on a new quote, something along the lines of, if you don't want to be treated like an inmate, stay out of jail. There's been debates for years about what corrections should do, and everybody's goal is to keep violent offenders away from possible victims, but at the same time, we want to hold them accountable and try to coach them into ways to take other people into consideration and help them figure out how their decisions affect other people. So the question is jail a warehouse or a rehabilitation facility? And I always thought that jail was basically a warehouse. Are we just there to punish people, lock them up and throw away the key? Or are we there to actually teach them and help hopefully guide them into making better decisions? So about 5 years later, I decided I didn't want to do a 20-year career in a jail. So I moved to the local county probation department where I got hired as a probation officer. After doing that for a little while, I asked myself, what's our mission as probation department as far as holding people accountable, or are we just there to send people to jail? You can ask different officers what their idea is, and some of the old school guys are going to say, yeah, we should lock them up and throw away the key, and some people are going to say, oh, we should coach, mentor, and guide them. Some people are going to say, let's send them to art classes. I mean, there's a huge spectrum of different possible answers and ideas that different people in probation have. I'll admit that over my time in the jail, I developed certain assumptions. But until I was kind of forced to look at the science behind some programs that probation offers, I was kind of forced into a different way of thinking. I had a conflict going on inside of my own head, and I don't like to say I've been brainwashed. I haven't turned into the whole, the softer side of crime or the hug-a-thug mentality, but certain statistics kind of speak for themselves, and there's no way to debate it. We know that not everything works, and we're not going to be able to save everybody. So that's why I'm going to tell you the story of a probationer that I will call Dale. Dale started with us as a juvenile. He was in our juvenile hall and was arrested multiple times for different theft crimes. He eventually moved into the adult world where he was being arrested for vehicle theft, commercial burglaries, and the like. So he had an appointment with his probation officer one day when he was released from jail. His probation officer, Officer Green, noticed that something wasn't quite right with Dale. He appeared to be under the influence of some kind of controlled substance, and his hunch was right. Dale was under the influence of methamphetamine. So through different trainings and things that we use, one being motivational interviewing, Officer Green was able to find out that Dale had a drug abuse problem, and he was stealing to support the drug habit. So if we can do something about the substance abuse, we fix the thieving problem. Therefore, we create a safer community, lower the crime rate, and we don't have nearly as many victims. So with that, Dale's probation officer referred him to a program called MRT. And MRT is an evidence-based practice. Evidence-based practices are kind of the new thing in probation. Probation departments across the country are moving to these practices because they've been statistically proven to work. So with moral recognition therapy, or MRT as it's called, it was developed in 1985 by Dr. Greg Little. There's been over 120 different studies that started back in 1985, and they were 20-year studies, and the results of these studies are finally coming out. And it has been found in these studies that MRT reduces recidivism from 25 to 50%. Recidivism is the recurring commitment of crime, the reincarceration. So with that, counties in all 50 states are moving to moral recognition therapy. There's a retired Superior Court judge in Placer County, California, Ron Kuzin. He put out a piece on evidence-based practice, and he stated that 70% of parolees that are released from custody commit a new crime or recidivate within 3 years. And these were studies on people that haven't gone through MRT. So within 3 years of being released, they're committing new crimes. So there is a private company. The company is called Correctional Counseling Incorporated, and they are contracted with probation departments across the country, my county being one of them, and we contract with them, and we are able to refer our offenders to their program. And I'm going to quote the Correctional Counseling Incorporated website on their in regards to their piece on MRT. It says, MRT addresses beliefs and reasoning. It is a systematic, step-by-step group counseling treatment approach for treatment-resistant clients. So not only does it treat people that want to change, it helps treatment-resistant people as well. The program is designed to alter how clients think and make judgments about what is right and what is wrong. MRT approaches the problem of treating resistant populations as a problem of low levels of moral reasoning. In this case, moral doesn't refer to a religious concept, but it refers to a theoretical conceptualization of what moral reasoning represents, and how a person makes decisions about what he or she should or shouldn't do in a given situation. Briefly, MRT seeks to move clients from a pleasure versus pain reasoning to levels where concern for social rules and other people becomes important. MRT research has shown that as clients complete the steps, moral reasoning increases in adult and juvenile offenders. So I know that my county is starting to implement MRT in our juvenile hall, which totally makes sense, because if it's having such great success with adults, why not start this with children and get them to start thinking in this more positive way so that we can possibly have fewer adult offenders? So with that, the most effective intervention in reducing recidivism among higher risk offenders are cognitive behavioral interventions, and based on social learning principles. People learn over time through a process of social consequences, both positive and negative. You know, the whole carrots, sticks, rewards, and punishments. So in conclusion, it may be time before probation services are adequately funded in California, but at the very least, departments should support the efforts of the departments to institute EBP, because there are a number of current tangible benefits, as I have stated. The whole throw the key away and lock them up doesn't work. And through these studies that I was mentioning, this is how we get results in probation today.